Transport Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga has called on law enforcement agencies to deal harshly with those responsible for the truck attacks. A number of vehicles have been torched in separate incidents over the past 3 days. The minister says torching trucks is a criminal act and amounts to economic sabotage. Transport Ministry Spokesperson Collen Msibi says Chikunga wants those responsible behind bars.
She has also called upon the law enforcement agencies to ensure that those who are responsible are brought to book. And she's, I think, expressed the importance of the freight industry in as far as the economic activity of the country is concerned. And it is quite important. And hence, she has said that those who are responsible must be brought to book, especially because we have a framework where those who are having problems can be able to bring their problems to the structure that we have, which is IMC and the task team, which is dealing with all the issues that have to do with the working conditions and the conditions of service within the freight industry.
Collen, given the situation, and as you say, the logistics network in South Africa is really an important lifeblood of our economy. We've seen the pressure on the logistics industry because of load shedding. We had interviews on the program talking about losses north of R1 billion a day in South Africa, just as much as load shedding is having an impact. So this is a critical sector we have to really preserve and protect. Given the urgency, given these rising acts of criminality, are there emergency meetings being held? Give us and the South African public a sense of what is happening behind the scenes.
Well, right now, this is act of criminality, as you've said. And really the issue is that the net joints and the justice cluster must come on board, which is what they have done. And we, from our side as Transport, we're working through our Road Traffic Management Corporation to galvanize our traffic authorities to be able to help the police to deal with the criminality which is happening currently. And there's of course the need to have the police visibility throughout the country to ensure that such criminal acts can see that there is work that is being done by the police. Unfortunately, the issue of policing and the issue of dealing with criminals is an issue that is within the purview of the SABC as well as some of our law enforcement agencies. So it is what is happening currently. But on another hand, in terms of dealing with the issues that are on the table, as I said to you, there is an interministerial committee which has been put in place to deal with the issues which are currently on the table, which is one, the issue of the employment of foreign drivers as professional drivers in the country. I think the point of departure has been that the Scarce Skills Act, which was developed by the Department of Labor, it is very clear that the issue of professional drivers is not a scarce skill in the country. And hence we've had to come up with this task team to be able to deal with those issues and see how we can be able to regulate in as far as how do we enter into that particular industry, the registration of the drivers, as well as the issue of the employment of the drivers by the employers, because one of the culprits would be the employers who employ the foreign drivers. Of course, that has to be dealt with by the Department of Labor. So those are the issues that are at play.
Yeah.
And more so what is very important is the issue of the amendment of the legislation, which is the Road Traffic Act. That is before the NCOP and the provinces in terms of the public participation. So it's going to enable us to be able to deal with all these issues that have been raised in the task.
Yeah, and that's why the coordination is paramount, Collen, that everybody works together. You cannot work in silos. So since these incidents have flared up again, you spoke to us about the interministerial committee that's dealing with this. Have all the ministers met? Has the police minister met the transport minister? Met the minister that's dealing with trade and industry and so on? Has everybody been in the same room? Has everyone been exchanging information?
Well, that has been happening on the sidelines of the NEC. As you know, the NEC ended yesterday, but there has been discussions amongst the ministers. I'm not privy to the discussions they've had. They've come out and condemned the acts of criminality that has happened. But of course, the issue has been about the emergency to deal with the criminality by the law enforcement agencies. And I think that has come out quite clearly. But the agenda on the table, it doesn't mean, therefore, that there has to be something changed in terms of the agenda, because the parties agreed on the course of action that has to be taken, which in this case, we cannot move until the amendment to the legislation that I've spoken about has to happen. So it is a matter that is before Parliament. Until such time that is done, we will be able to move on other areas which I have indicated, including the issue of traffic register number, the issue of the registration of operators, as well as the issue of the operating licenses by the truckers themselves. So it is part of the issues that are being addressed as part of the task team. But they hinges upon the issue of the amendment of the legislation, which is the Road Traffic Act. So we must understand, I think the bigger scheme of things is that our legislation must speak to each other. The Road Traffic Act, all these criminality acts, they happen on our spaces transport. But the issue is that what is being raised as concern hinges upon what happens in the immigration space, but also what happens in the labor space. So as transport, we need to then make sure that when we do the amendment of the legislation, it must speak to all the other pieces of legislation so that we are able to check those areas of work. For instance, when we stop a truck driver, we should be able to say, if he's a foreign, we should be able to say whether this person complies with other immigration laws of the country, the issues of labor, whether the person was employed accordingly in terms of the Labor Act. So those are the issues that are on the table, but we cannot move as transport until the issue of the amendment of the legislation is completed.